Welcome back. In this series of videos, I am covering questions and answers which are most likely to come in elementary logic for first year BA LLB students in SEM 1. This is a 75 mark paper. We are covering for today in this video on what is the distinction between deductive and inductive arguments. This can come for either 2 marks or 6 marks or 4 marks or even for 13 marks question. So depending on where this question is coming, you will have to write as many points as possible. So for a 2 mark question, even 4 or 2 points would suffice for distinction between deductive and inductive arguments. So in this, basically I'm covering it for 13 marks. You can take up only 2 points if it comes for 2 mark question, as I mentioned earlier, or as many more points as possible and expand on each point as the marks increases. So deductive and inductive arguments are two primary methods of reasoning used in logic, philosophy, and law. They differ in structure, purpose, and the nature of their conclusions. Deductive arguments. Deductive reasoning moves from, so wherever you see bold, these are the keywords which we have to remember. So if the definition comes, what is deductive argument? We say it moves from general principles to specific conclusions. So deductive argument or deductive reasoning moves from general principles to specific conclusion. A deductive argument is valid if its premises logically guarantee the conclusion. If the premises are true, the conclusion must necessarily be true. So it moves from general principle to specific conclusion. What are its key features? Structure, certainty, and keywords. Premises provide conclusive evidence for the conclusion. Logical evidence, it logically follows from premises to the conclusion in deductive arguments. The conclusion is either true or false with no middle ground. There are no possibilities. It is either true or false. Deductive arguments necessarily follows, the conclusion necessarily follows from the premises. And the keywords are necessary, must be, always, if then. These are the keywords for deductive arguments. For example, let's see this in an examples from law point of view. We'll take 3 examples from law point of view. In exams, we can give as many examples as we can remember. A major premise: all citizens above 18 years of age have the right to vote. Minor premise: Raj is a citizen above 18 years of age. Therefore, conclusion is, therefore Raj has the right to vote. Second example: breach of contract leads to legal liability. Minor premise: A breached the contract. A breached the contract. Conclusion: A is legally liable. So what happens is, we remove, there's a breach of the contract leads to legal liability. So A is legally liable. Third example: major premise: killing with intent constitutes murder under IPC section 302. Minor premise: X killed Y with intent. Therefore, the conclusion is X committed murder. Now let's look at 3 standard examples. Major premise: all these examples we find in our elementary logic book. All humans are mortal. Socrates is a human. Conclusion is Socrates is mortal. Another example: all squares are polygon. A square is a 4-sided figure, therefore it is a polygon. Another example is, if it rains, the ground gets wet. It rained today, the ground is wet. inductive argument. So just to recap, deductive argument, it moves from general premises or principles or statements or propositions to a specific conclusion. This is the key word for deductive argument that we need to remember. From general principles to specific conclusions. Alright, now let's move into inductive arguments. Inductive reasoning moves from specific observations to a general conclusion. Inductive reasoning moves from specific observations to a general conclusion. Unlike deduction, inductive reasoning does not guarantee the truth of the conclusion, but only makes it probable. Key features: structure. Premises provide probable support for the conclusion. The conclusion does not necessarily flow from the premises. There is a probability that the conclusion may be wrong. Uncertainty. The conclusion is likely but not certain. Keywords here are probably, likely, most, some, generalization. Example from law. We'll take 3 examples from law again. In most cases, a confession by the accused leads to conviction. Conclusion comes, this confession will likely lead to conviction. In previous cases of negligence, courts awarded damages to the injured party. The court will likely award damages in this negligence case. Most contracts with clear terms are enforceable in court. This contract with clear terms is likely enforceable. Let's look at few standard examples. The sun has risen every day in the past. The sun will likely rise tomorrow also. That's the conclusion. Standard example for observation. We see most apples in the basket are red. The next apple I pick is probably red. All observed swans are white. All swans are likely white. Now, summary chart, we can use it for 2-mark question or 4-mark or 6-mark or 13-mark question. So we can take two of them for 2-mark question. Let's look at how it moves. So deductive reasoning moves from general to specific conclusion, from general principles to specific conclusions, whereas inductive reasoning moves from specific instances or observations to general conclusion. Important point is, what is specific? In this case, specific are the instances or the observations that we have done, and we move to a general conclusion. All swans are, I saw 20 swans, they were all white, therefore all swans are white. Kind of an example for inductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning must be true if the premises are true. Deductive reasoning's conclusion has to be true if the premises are true. Whereas in inductive reasoning, the conclusion is probable or likely to be true, but it is not guaranteed because our premises are probable. These are instances, these are observations, these are not facts. Deductive reasoning, we can find some keywords in that which states necessary, always, must. So it is conclusive. Whereas inductive is probable. Keywords include probably, likely, generalization. Deductive arguments or reasonings are valid or invalid, whereas inductive reasoning arguments are either strong or weak, because inductive reasoning arguments will be strong if there is more validity, there are more observations, there is more strength in those observations. Then it will be strong, otherwise it's weak. In deductive reasoning, We can say with an example, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Whereas in inductive reasoning, we say with an example, most swans seen are white, therefore all swans are white. Now let's look at the detailed explanation, because if we are doing it for 13-mark question, we have to know how to expand that question further. So certainty versus probability. Deductive or deduction or deductive arguments deals with certainty. It's a fact based. If the premises are true, the conclusions will be true. It cannot be false. Whereas in induction or inductive argument or inductive reasoning, it deals with probability. Even if the premises are true, the conclusion might not be true. The conclusion might be probable, probably likely true or probably true. Application in law. How deductive arguments are used in law? It is used to establish legal rules to specific cases. The legal rules are general rules. So we are moving from general principles to specific instances or conclusion. Lawyers derive conclusions based on universal acceptability of laws. In induction, in law, it is used to form legal precedents and interpret patterns in case outcomes. Strength of arguments. A deductive argument's validity depends on the logical structure, not the truth of its premises. Whereas an inductive argument's strength depends on the quality and the quantity of evidence. Real life implications. Deduction ensures precise application of law, reducing ambiguity. Induction allows for flexibility and adaptation of laws to new circumstances. To conclude, deductive reasoning provides the foundation for legal certainty, while inductive reasoning enables flexibility and adaptability in evolving legal landscape. Both are indispensable tools for lawyers, judges, and lawmakers. So we end this topic here for first year BA LLB most likely questions that can appear in our exams. Best of luck to you all. Thank you very much for listening. Do share this video link with other friends of yours who might benefit from this video. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.